AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
You should. And Mr. Toby Tomplin. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. 1 hour from right now, Kenny Lacey, Kyron Lacey's dad, and attorney Matt Orey are going to be in studio with us. We're very much looking forward to that conversation, which means Sean Salisbury, who's normally with us in hour 3, was very kind enough to be flexible and move up a bit today, and we're always thrilled to have Sean with us talk a little ball. Sean, great to have you as always, man. How are you?
It's great to be with you, and that's an important conversation and a tragic one you're going to get to have in about an hour. So I'm honored to do it for that family, man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate your flexibility and your time as always. Spencer Rattler finally got himself a win. What do you think that? Well, obviously you played in the NFL, but to get the first win, what's Spencer Rattler feeling right now?
You'll forget a lot of things in your career, Matt. Some you want to, and some you don't. But I got to tell you that you'll never forget that one. I remember my first win in the league as well. And it didn't come after 4 or 5 or 6 losses, unfortunately, how it started. What's it been, 11 or 12 for him counting last year?
He started 0-10.
But it's okay. Yeah, 0-10. What was it, Matty, 0-11 or something?
0-10, yeah.
Yeah, 0-10. I'm happy for him. It's one of those you almost feel like, and I know it's not, but it's internally you feel like, man, we just won a Super Bowl, because it does a few things. One, it validates the hard work you put in. 2, you hope it's a Kickstarter for your team. And even if it's, people don't get carried away and say, oh, they won one, they'll go on a 10-game run. Who knows? But I think it's just, and it's also, it can draw you together, because it also got Kellen Moore his first win there too. And so there's a lot of firsts. It's a confidence thing, because even though you're playing well, the one stat that we always keep track of is wins and losses. And we somehow put that only on the quarterback. So if the team's losing, it's the quarterback's fault. If the team's winning, everybody gets credit, but the quarterback gets most of it. So that's part and parcel of the position. But it is, we've turned it into a quarterback stat. So you wear it, man. Every week, it's not we got beat. When you're at home sitting by yourself, whether you say we in front of everybody, you believe I got beat. It's on me. And that's usually the burden quarterbacks bear. And he's handled it well. And he's been through a lot. And I can tell you what helped him handle it, in my opinion. I think he's a good young kid, and he humbled along the way. We all need that. He, to go through that and go the ups and downs along the way. Nothing's good about losing other than the growth you're going to make to get to winning. But when you go through some pitfalls in your career along the way, even though he won a lot in college and high school, it's still different when you're with the big boys. And it's a great motivator to continue to go, even though you didn't need motivation. But it's just like anything else. Once that's done, now you can put that away and hopefully focus on the positive, because every week you're focused on what you didn't do as opposed to what you did do or what you can do. And now they know some of the things they can do, big plays and the way they played in the game. And it's a great reward, and it's a great celebration with your teammates and your friends and family, but it's also, and the city. But I think he was well equipped for this, because he's been kicked in the teeth a few times, and that's part of the growth that goes with being a starting quarterback in the league. It isn't easy, as we well know.
Hey, remind me, did you for those who don't know, Sean tutors a lot of young quarterbacks. Did you ever cross paths with Spencer when he was young?
I was coached him at a camp at the Texas A&M Elite when they invited their elite recruits.
Okay.
I got invited by A&M to go up there and be part of that. And I was able to see him. It was his junior year going into his senior year.
Okay. So you,
and
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I saw him and I watched him. I was just up close and watched how he handled himself. And at that point in time, and I know his guy who trains him in Scottsdale, since he was in high school and beyond, who's a really good coach out there. But I got to work with him and it was a pleasure. The kid, I knew then he had special skill set, but you never know how it's going to turn out. And he was awfully confident and he knew he was a good player. And I mean that respectfully and affectionately, but sometimes, when it gets to the point where you're that dominant, and he was, that along the way, sometimes you run into those pitfalls, and he probably never saw them for the most part early in his career, so he wasn't used to it. And then when he had to face it, he had to, recarve out and rebrand him as a quarterback, and he did. But I was impressed with how physically gifted and strong he was when I got to watch him work.
So you've seen him for every phase, or high school, college, pro. What's interesting to me right now, Sean, is through 5 games, just 6 touchdowns, but only 1 interception. Like, largely he's avoided the big mistakes. I'm curious what evolution you've seen from Rattler, given what the perception was of him in college and how his career in the NFL has begun.
I love the evolution because, from watching him and people that watched him every day in high school and me getting to coach him at that camp, but also talking to, his private coach, and just listen to the way people talked about him in Arizona, which is like a second home for me, and paying attention to those high school recruits. He was a very dynamic, explosive player with a great skill set and, a guy who had guts and a chance taker. You put the ball in his hand, great things were going to happen. And when you're that good, you assume you can make every throw. And it's hard, Matt, to back off and know when to be judicious with the football. It just is. Because then the expectations, we see it all the time. It's rare you get a guy of his talent that come out and say, yeah, man, he's a patient guy. And most of the time we're looking at explosive talent. We want big plays and you got to go dominate. And so to settle in, to go from being an athlete who's a quarterback, don't misunderstand me, but then as you get on and everybody's good and everybody around you, to being a quarterback that's not just a thrower, but that's a passer and understands the concept. Because he was good enough, Matt, in high school to not make a great play and still be better than the guys around him, if that makes sense. To
sure.
Miss a read and still make a throw. To miss where somebody misses a block and to find and buy himself some time and to make something happen when you're that physically gifted. So it becomes more of a physical thing as you're going on, and you don't realize until you get to it and it hits you in the face in college that, oh my gosh, there's a lot of other things to it. And that's not, it's just when you're that good, the mental part of it doesn't hit you until, it has to hit you. And he was a smart guy. I'm just talking about you didn't have to rely on that with that cerebral stuff. None of it. I didn't. I knew it. He knows coverage, but I was just physically better than players. And I don't mean it arrogant, just was. So that's what your crutch is. And he was physically just better than everybody. So the secondary part of it is the mental patience, getting through your progressions, because he could throw it through a car wash without getting it wet in high school, and he was just better. But what happens is you go through it, and then you say, okay, now coverage, and then fast-paced offense, and then you come in and have a few bad games, and the expectations raise. Well, all the expectations for him have been he's lived up to them. Then he gets to school, and it's like, well, wait a second now. From first pick possible to the draft, highest recruited kid in the country, to going through struggles, bringing another guy. Oh, now what? Then that guy has success, and you don't get the gig back, and you got to transfer. So all those things that are well documented, but I think the evolution is that he learned along the line, you don't have to be a hero. You don't have to make every play. In high school, he was good enough to do it, so he did it. And when he got to college, he was, hence why going into his last year, he was supposed to be the first pick of the draft or top 3 pick. So it happens. But the evolution from being an athlete thrower to a quarterback passer and a guy who processes it all and understands what the defense is trying to do to you, then, and I think that's carried over to here. He got here and realized, you know what? In order for us and me to have some success, I've got to be smart with the football. Now, as he gets, you saw him take chance, the big 87-yard play. What a great route call and a great throw and finish. Is that as he starts to evolve now, as he's backed off saying, let me get these completions. Let me understand how to beat people with my mind and other parts of getting the ball out on time. That physically, the corner in high school doesn't quite cover like the guy does now. And it's just a different way to do it. And sometimes you don't learn it, sometimes you do, and sometimes it takes a minute. When I watched him last week and watched him this year, and from last year, some of the struggles, it feels to me like there's command, there's more processing, and he's got the physical ability to make it happen. But once you start to tie them both together, good things happen. I know it's one win, but I think he's played good enough football this year to warrant the fact that he's the starting quarterback. That one bad game shouldn't sit him down. I believe that. And so then a coach's number one thing is make sure the guys around, that confidence and believability, but protect the football. And he's doing a hell of a job of it, because I know the other stuff's there. When big plays are there, he'll make them as he evolves. But you got to know, can you protect it? Can you overcome what you couldn't overcome when you went through your struggles? And now here you are again. And to me, the greatest growth is learning from your earlier mistakes. And I think he's done that. And I think he is progressing to prove that he can be a guy in this league. Because I want to remind people again, when that kid came out of high school and for the majority of his college career, he was as good as there was wherever he was. And then he went through a little humble pie. And that's not a bad thing, especially if you know what you're going through and understand what it takes to get out of it.
Yeah, it brings up a really interesting matchup this week, and then I'm going to talk about when we come back, because the Saints are going to host New England. You got another young quarterback, Drake Maye. Looks pretty good right now. Certainly the Patriots going on the road on Sunday Night Football, getting a win in Buffalo. We'll talk about that when we come back. I also want to talk about maybe the next generation of potential future great quarterback there in LaNorris Sellers. We'll get Sean's thoughts on that as Sellers and the Gamecocks coming to Baton Rouge this weekend. It's After Further Review, brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows door siding. Oh, yeah, they do shutters as well at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Their number one product is always customer satisfaction. Brandon Holly demands that of everyone within the organization, and you'll understand it. They measure twice, they install once. Every window is custom made to the specifications of your home. Reduce your energy bills. Increase your home's resale value. Lifetime transferable warranty on labor, material, and glass breakage. Talked about Relief Windows for more than a decade because they're the best. It's Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. We continue with Sean Salisbury next on AFR.
AFR.
GLO, GlowResources.com, GlowResources.com. They are complete employer solutions over at Glow Resources. And you know what, Glow? They measure their success by how long an employee stays in your company. And this isn't a temp staffing agency. They're trying to find permanent solutions for the jobs you need to fill within your organization to make you more efficient. So if you're the person in charge of hiring, you need to get to know Glow, GLO, GlowResources.com. And at Glow, they have a 96% success rate. 9.6 out of 10 people that they hire for your business stay. It's an amazing success rate. As a matter of fact, if it does, they're so confident in their ability. If they don't find that person, they'll find someone else for you for free or give you a prorated refund. It's Glow Resources. They'll service businesses anywhere in the country or the world. GLO, GlowResources.com.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She likes the way it's pulling while we're tilling up a land. She's even kind of crazy about my farmer's tan.
Glad you're rolling along with us here on this Tuesday edition of AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I always appreciate Sean Salisbury for joining us. You'll get him on Twitter, X at Sean Unfiltered. Make sure you go subscribe to Unpaved there on YouTube. The link's on Sean's Twitter bio if you want to check it out there. Sean, we went to break and we were talking about Spencer Rattler. This weekend's going to be interesting because of the couple of young quarterbacks and Drake Maye coming in. How would you sort of assess Drake Maye and the Patriots through the first handful of games here under Mike Vrabel coming into the Dome after one of the most impressive and maybe surprising wins of the early NFL season, Sunday Night Football in Buffalo?
Yeah, it goes to show you that coaching does matter and buy-in and guys that can make a difference. And, while I hope Tennessee gets their stuff settled, one team's and organization's loss is another team's gain. This is a perfect job for Mike, and it matters with Drake Maye. And listen, when you're a head coach and you get a job in college, nowadays you're looking for NIL money, a recruiting base, support from the AD and the president. And a great fan base, right? Well, the pros, you're looking for, an organization that maybe you're familiar with, that you trust the people who hired you, and then you want to have a good quarterback. It's a good place to start. And Mike's got that. Love him. I've always loved him. As far as Drake Maye, I was a huge fan coming out of school. I know we didn't get to see, 5 years of a body of work,
right?
But he can make every throw. He's more athletic than people think. He can kill you from the pocket, which is I love quarterbacks that can do it both, Matty. But for me, it starts there. We rarely have consistent Super Bowl type contenders or winners that they beat you with their feet first, arm second. It's the other way around, and he's really good from there. And I think he's got a great feel for the game. And every time I watch him, he feels pretty unflappable to me. He still looks like a child and a kid, but he plays like a grown-up. And talk about a guy who's fought through it, emerged, and is really uplifted an organization. Going forward, this is a good matchup, man, with Mike Vrabel, the organization, the Patriots. They really, no matter how we go about it, and I know it hadn't been a long time since Tom's been gone, but I haven't been as optimistic about that organization and about that team since Mike and now with Drake Maye got there. He's been well taught along the way, and you can see what coaching's doing for him. And now he's starting to get to the point where the leadership and believability. I thought it was a huge win. I think we're making a major mistake. The Jets are awful. The Miami Dolphins are as soft as a wet paper towel. They're not any good. The New England Patriots, one thing and when you got a quarterback and you play tough, and he's still not doing it with the Detroit Lions personnel, Drake Maye, right? Mike's going to continue to build that. There's a sense of toughness that I'm a big believer, because everywhere I've been, we have taken on the personality of our head coach. I don't care if it's high school, college, or pro. That personality, whatever that was, we took it on, and a coaching staff. And I think Drake Maye will benefit from that. And I think Mike realized how good he is. Give him some more personnel, and there's an elevation. When you look at that class, it has some pretty good players. I don't see why 5 years from now we're not talking about him in the same breath we're talking about the best in the league. He's got that ability. But it also, they have to continue to build around him. I love his poise and that victory against Buffalo. I would not sleep on the New England Patriots as the season goes along. Toughness travels, and Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach, and they got a quarterback. I wouldn't sleep on them being a team that in December is still in a battle for a wild card spot.
Yeah, you go to Buffalo and win, the league has been put on notice. Sean, the Saints played by their standard pretty well, still gave up 31 and lost by a dozen at Buffalo. So, you go win there.
They're pretty good, and their quarterback dresses in a phone booth, man. Yeah. So I understand. You got to go there, and it takes, even when you're playing good, it's tough to win, and that's a great point.
Hard to win in Baton Rouge as well, and South Carolina's found wins hard to come by this season. LaNorris Sellers came in, was the preseason SEC first-team, all-team quarterback, and, man, it's not been a good start. What's going on with South Carolina offensively?
Yeah. I know that he's, there's been banged up a little bit, but not excuse. And Shane Beamer's not going to make him. Maddie, not just you guys. I was looking at that schedule this morning. It is brutal for them, too. Yeah. You start to go through the gamut that they got to deal with. Even though you guys haven't played your best, we know the potential and how difficult it is in Baton Rouge. I don't know. It looks rigid to me, and I've watched him, and at times it's unwatchable. And he had high expectations. You know how I felt about him in the preseason. I think remember I was talking about polish and the guy who can beat you if one of there's taken away, that he can beat you. Let's say his feet, his big body, and that incredible playmaking skills that LaNorris Sellers has, that he can take over a game, and we've seen it in the past. But it almost feels, and I don't want to say the hype got to him, because I do like Coach Beamer, I do. But for whatever reason, but we've seen it. We see it with Penn State. We've seen it with Clemson. We've seen it with we see it with the University of Texas, that the hype, matter of fact, think about it. Klubnik, Arch, LaNorris Sellers, even in us, the 4 or 5 top quarterbacks in this country going into this season, Heisman, top draft picks, none of them yet have played. We've seen flashes, but none of them have played in big games the way that they're supposed to play, and that we expect a first top 5 guy or Heisman Trophy guy to play like. LaNorris Sellers, the danger part of this, Matt, is that he's got so many different ways to beat you that at some point they're going to have that game. Now, a tough place to go play it, and coming off of some rest, and they'll be ready to go and hopefully healthy, meaning LSU. But I would caution people, even though it hasn't looked pretty, he still is one of those guys. He's raw, Matty, he is. And he's going to take a lot of coaching to be the guy I've talked about that doesn't have to beat you with the wear you out physically, that he can beat you in other ways. But we've seen, and I watched him last year, literally a game or two take over a game and flat out will his team to victory. It sounds easier said than done, and it is easier said than done, but he's due for a monster performance, and he can kill you with both his legs, his physicality, and also the arm. So I would caution us to think this will be an easy one if you're LSU, because of the way they've played. At some point in time, they're going to play better. I know LSU hopes they can put a stop to it, but the guy's got the skill set, as going by the preseason vote, the skill set to be a really good player. He's just not a polished one yet. I think he needs more coaching in the passing game.
It's interesting because there's been a lot of those comments about the LSU offense as well, which came in with great expectations. It hasn't lived up. I'm curious, Sean, in an open date, aside from getting healthy, you go through self-scout. LSU's 121st in the country in rushing offense. How much better realistically can you get during your open date?
Well, and Matt, I don't know off the top of my head. I know you do because you got all that. How many attempts or their commitment to it? I know I watch them, but the literal commitment to it. The runs versus pass and ratio and the stuff, the balance we're looking for. I do know going into it, it'd be easy if I was a coach and a team to rely on the guy that was under center heading into this season, because you expect him to make all the throws, and he's at that stage that we do expect it and expect more. But it doesn't matter who the guy is or how good he is. If that is that bad and there's the commitment, while you want to commit to it, but you still don't, you put the ball in his hand, it puts an extra burden on him. And then if he is banged up or sore, or, if he is hurting or you're not playing as well, and all of a sudden you're not blocking up front and you're getting your quarterback hit and he's taking hits, and then he wants to force balls in because you at times playing from behind and you got to make plays, it compounds problems. I don't care what anybody says. As valuable as it gets, find me, look around. Jalen Hurts, look around the NFL or college, teams that consistently win. The devalue of the running backs, hogwash. I know we've done it in the NFL, but last year was different. Take a look. The teams that do it run the ball. The teams that struggle. I don't care if it's Mahomes or Elway or anybody. If you can't run it, Elway needed Terrell Davis to get his 2 Super Bowls. And Terrell needed him too. Don't misunderstand me. But I just think when you're that good, trying to fix it during the season, 2 things I've always said when it comes to in season. It's hard to work on mechanics as a player, especially at the quarterback position. It just is, because you're putting game plans in and the next game's on you. Now, the bye week gives you a little more time, but it's like anything else. I don't want to have a golf lesson when I'm in the middle of trying to fix it while I'm on the course.
Right.
We'll talk about it and then go to the practice range. But there's not enough time once the season starts. And the other thing is, I believe physical run games or physicality, which includes the run game, I think I don't want to say impossible, but I think it's really, really difficult 5-6 games in to change who you are and also to fix physicality in the run game. Because when you're that low, it's a physical problem. It's not just a running back. It's a physical, holes not opening, which also leads to, are they making mental mistakes where there's guys playing in the backfield? And there is. To be honest with you, if at the end of the season, you and I are doing this show and they say, man, they turned around and ended up 12th in the country, I will be shocked. And they're also now I don't want to say desperate, but they're in a position where they got to win a lot of games. And you're going to rely on your best stuff. And you're not going to try to fix it in a game, but you do have to commit to it and see if you can carve out motions and manipulate it with, and down and distance and formations to give yourself a fair box. But they are, I can't believe I'm saying this about an LSU team when they're getting manhandled at the line of scrimmage in the run game. Yeah. That's not a good thing. I don't believe you can fix physicality, because I got news for you. Bruce Matthews and Anthony Munoz ain't coming out of the stands to play for you right now. And I don't think Barry Sanders has got any eligibility left. So while good players, I'm not saying they're not, but the run game is a bring your own blocker at times. And it's a commitment to, you just got to be more physical than the other team. You can have all the shifty stuff you want. And I don't think you can make wholesale changes. And quite frankly, I don't think you can make quantum leaps in the run game as far as that far down to get where they're going to need to be to win the SEC and be in a playoff. That's a long way. They can still get the playoff, but you're going to have to carve it and manipulate it and fool the system a little bit, because that's a long way to travel during the season.
So the numbers you asked for, so a year ago, and this is a conversation we've had a bunch, so your intuition is right. A year ago, LSU was 60-40 pass run. They didn't really even give a great attempt at balance. This year, through 5 games, they've thrown it 184 times, ran it 147. So they're 55-45. They're closer to balance. But against Ole Miss, it was sick. They threw it 34 times and ran it 22 times. Sean, in that game, there were only 2 instances the entire game where they ran the ball in consecutive plays.
Yeah, and that can't happen, because it also gets to a point where those big fellas like the rhythm, right? And the balance is better. But what happened? And then if you're doing that and you're not getting, you're running it, and then you're throwing it, you're running it. First of all, defensive teams pick up on that. Tendencies are nothing more than evidence, and that you'll study the next week. So, and then it's hard to commit to it. Then if you're a fan, or Maddie, if you and I are in the media and we're saying, man, 55-45, but look where they're ranked. So what gives? You're still trying to run it, but you're not doing anything. And then as obvious, when you're not getting success in the run game, what happens? They change up how they're coming after you. Plus, they play it in long yardage situations, Matt. You can handle that a game or two, a series or two. But if that's where you're at, it's first and 10, it's 2nd and 8, it's 3rd and 7 every now and then you get into a passing fancy. Even though it's been pretty balanced, you're still going to rely on what you think you do best. And we know that's been Nussmeier, who you're counting on as their best, their thrower and the guy who's a veteran to do it. But with that balance, it's got to be better, which tells you there's either lapses in the mental part of not knowing who to block, or they're just not physical enough to move the pile. Good distribution. I'm good 60-40, 55-45. Mm-hmm. But what I'm not good is not running it 2 times in a row. Yeah. Because that tells everybody that you're abandoning it too quickly. And in a game like that, and you're giving up possessions to a pretty explosive team. And in truth, Matty, we watched it. Ole Miss was more physical than LSU, and we don't say that very often in the past, but they were, and it's going to have to change. I don't know how you change it, but maybe you're going to have to design different formations to get guys space, because right now there's not a lot of it.
Coming off an open date, it'll be very telling to see how the Tigers healthier sure and 2 weeks to prepare and sort of reassess how they look. And, of course, we'll talk about it every week here with Sean Salisbury. Y'all get him on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. Make sure you go subscribe on YouTube there. To Unpaved on YouTube. The link's there in his Twitter bio as always. Sean, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for being flexible again today, man. We appreciate you as always.
My pleasure, and good luck with that interview, man. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. That's Sean Salisbury, what he's referring to. We're going to have Kenny Lacey, Kyron's dad, and attorney Matt Orey in studio with us in 30 minutes from right now. An important conversation that I'm looking forward to having. We'll do that coming up shortly. We are brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. Fall savings are back. You can get up to $100 back right now via Visa Reward Card or your Visa Virtual Prepaid Card after online submission with the purchase of 4 new select Uniroyal passenger or light truck tires. That's between August the 28th all the way up to October the 7th. Today's your last day. Go take advantage of it. You want to look at all the current promotions, you can do so at ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. Hit the promotions tab at the top of the page. You'll see all the deals that they have on tires because they're going to sell you the best tires on the road at the cheapest price possible. That's at Shawbills, and they're going to keep you coming back year after year after year because they treat you like family. Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. Shawbills, where we keep you rolling. All right, we're halfway home here on this Tuesday. Presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Thanks to Shea Dixon, who was here last hour. Sean Salisbury just there talking some black and gold, purple and gold. And as we mentioned, Kenny Lacey and Matt Orey will be in our studio here in 29 minutes from right now. We're looking forward to that conversation. Let me knock out a quick break. We will continue. Both Kellen Moore and Brian Kelly getting their team set for this week. We'll continue here on AFR.
After further review.
If you are thinking about selling your home, first, you got to know how much your home is worth. So the best place to go is agent225.com, agent225.com, agent225.com. That's Darren James's website. And I tell you that because on the website, there's a home value tab. If you're on mobile, just scroll down. You see where it says home value. Just type in your address. Boom. Your property value will pop up. And you might say, oh, well, I could look at Zillow. The problem with your Zestimate there is, like, when was the last time Zillow was in your home? See, with Darren, he uses local market data that a national website like that may not have. Local market data that will give you a better sense of what home values in your neighborhood are appraised for and going for. So how much is your home really worth? You want to find out? You can do so in a matter of seconds right now at agent225.com, agent225.com. You need to sell your home. You need the best. You need Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She thinks my tractor's sexy.
LaNorris Sellers, who's an outstanding athlete, incredible arm, has the ability to change a game. We saw what he did against us last year. Certainly somebody that we have to make sure does not wreck the game for us.
2 quarterbacks here that entered this season among the preseason Heisman favorites, and both have fallen out of that conversation here after 1 week in October. Welcome back. Glad to have you aboard with us here on this Tuesday edition of AFR Powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. The flip side of it is Shane Beamer was asked about Garrett Nussmeier and if he's seen any differences in Nussmeier from a year ago. Remember, a year ago in Columbia, South Carolina, Garrett Nussmeier threw for over 300 yards in that game there in Columbia, in a game where the Tigers had to rally. It was a big offensive day. Neither team really could get a stop late. And ultimately, the Tigers did prevail. But this is Beamer talking about Nuss from last year to this year.
No. He's made some throws this year, Jordan, that are wow throws that, you're like, man, there's very few people in the country that can make that throw. The one thing I've seen, they've had some injuries on the offensive line. They lost some really good offensive linemen. 66, Campbell starting for the Patriots now, and that was a really good group that they had last year. And then they've basically had to replace that group with some portal guys and new players, freshmen, and then they've had some injuries. And it's tough, man. So there's continuity on the offensive line where they've given up some pressures, which is going to happen in this conference, and he hasn't been able to sit in the pocket maybe as much at times as he would like. And from what I read, he hasn't been 100% healthy. I know they said they rested him some last week with an injury that he's had, but I see him gutting it out and making plays and being the great quarterback that he is.
It's interesting there that Beamer defaulted to talking about the offensive line and a lot of the pressures, and looking at him on film. By the way, I said Nuss threw for 3. He threw for 285 last year, just to be completely accurate on it. 285 at South Carolina a year ago. But it's interesting when you hear coaches talk about it, right? I know a lot of the fan conversation, again, I'm not here to convince you one way or another. I know people believe at this point about Nuss, his injury, whatever, what you're going to believe, and there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change that. So we'll go into Saturday, see how it all plays out against South Carolina, see if Nuss looks more like Nuss. But my contention has been pretty adamantly that the root of your issue is the offensive line, which, like, if you're actually willing to pull back, take the 10,000-foot view, haven't we talked about this in spring? That was your biggest concern? 5 new starters on the offensive line, a couple of portal guys, 2 new starting tackles, and it hadn't gone well. That's objectively true. It hasn't gone well for LSU in this offensive line that's piecing it together right now. And they got to improve, and they got to find answers. And maybe part of that answer is playing a guy like Karius Kern, like we talked about a day ago. But it's interesting as we've had the conversations where Shane Beamer sort of defaulted to as well when he was talking about it. Said Nussmeier's made some of the throws that only a handful of guys in the country can make. Well, if he's injured, is he making those throws? I don't know. You make your own decisions. Again, I'm not trying to convince you one way or another of what is or isn't happening. But ultimately, this is going to be a real telltale for this LSU offense against a South Carolina defense that isn't quite what it was a year ago. Nuss has had the week off now to get healthy. You've had the opportunity to self-scout, see how they can go. But when you go look at these blocking grades from PFF, just the overall blocking grades, this is the challenge here. When you look at the blocking grades, your highest graded player is Braylon Moore at a 68. Karius Kern's next at a 67. You got a big drop-off. You got Josh Thompson at a 62. Tyree Adams at a 61. Like, if I go to just run blocking, right? Let's just look at run blocking grades. I'm not talking about Ori Williams, who's played 26 snaps. But if you look at your regulars, so Braylon Moore is at a 66. After that, the next highest rated offensive lineman is Karius Kern at a 59. DJ Chester at a 58. Josh Thompson at a 56. Tyree Adams at a 55. You get the point? Do pass blocking grades. Thompson's at an 83. Babenga's at an 82. Kern's at a 77. You've had some good numbers there. Moore's at a 72. Like, some of your pass blocking grades have been okay, but your run blocking grades have been objectively very bad. And if you can't run the ball to create balance and you're giving up pressures against a 3-man front, we've said it enough. You know the issues, and Shane Beamer tends to agree. A big opportunity for the LSU offense this week. Brian Kelly did also talk a little bit about that offensive self-scout. I want to get into that here in just a quick second. We are brought to you by Supper Club. They're back open today. Of course, closed Sunday, Monday, open Tuesday to Saturday. They're open tonight, so you knock off of work. Why head home? Don't go home. Go have dinner at Supper Club. Maybe go meet a client, call up your significant other, say, hey, meet me at Supper Club tonight for dinner. If you don't have a reservation, that's all right. Open seating at the bar. So 14 bar stools, 7 bar tables. You can always have dinner there at the bar if you can't get a table. Maybe you look up and get a table. Or you want a reservation for this weekend, maybe have dinner Friday night with people coming in town before LSU plays South Carolina, or Saturday around game time. Listen, it's not a sports bar, but they do have a 100-inch projection screen in the lounge area next to the bar. So if you're in the bar area, you can see the TV. And instead of maybe going having, some greasy food, how about you go have a delicious steak while you watch the game? Do that at Supper Club this Saturday. SupperClubBTR.com for your reservations. SupperClubBTR.com. Love telling you about Supper Club. Brian Kelly on Monday, when he was meeting with reporters, was asked about the self-scout, right? So you have the week off, and you don't start preparing last week for South Carolina. You begin your preparation for Carolina this week. So last week was more self-scouting, working on what you need to improve. And here's Brian Kelly talking about what LSU was working on last week.
We've been so much better in the second half than the first half. From an offensive perspective, play a little bit more to our strengths. And really, like I mentioned, much more of an efficient 4 quarters of offense is what's needed. There's no major changes. There's no, hey, we're going to go to a split back veer or do something crazy here. We have to be more efficient in our passing game. We've got to hit shots down the field. And then we have to be much more efficient with the run game. So we've been working hard on it. Our guys have. I'm proud of the way they really locked in last week in a bye week. And my expectations is this offense is going to continue to get better week after week.
And the other thing that we've talked about a good bit is we talked about with Sean Salisbury just a smidge ago there, is the commitment to the running game. And the interesting thing is, I think this year we have seen more of that than we did a year ago. Remember, a year ago they were 60-40 pass to run. They passed it at a 60% clip, ran it at a 40% clip. That was Cole Kubelik this summer. Was his whole sort of thesis was you can't say they were bad run blockers. You didn't give them the opportunity. You didn't consistently commit to it. Well, you go into this year, like the Clemson game, for example. LSU threw it 39 times. They ran it 31 times. There was at least more of a commitment. They ran it 31 times for 108 yards. It's only 3.5 yards a clip, but there was a commitment to doing it and possessing the football and protecting your defense. And that's what evaded them, I believe, in the game against Ole Miss. It was just the general lack of commitment to even trying to run the football. You can even look at the Florida game where you saw a little bit more balance offensively in their efforts. LSU threw it 27 times. They ran it 25 times. Again, it wasn't a potent offensive day for LSU, but they played complementary football. You protected a defense who was playing really well. And then you go against Ole Miss, and that number flips, 34-22, and you got completely out of whack. It's not hard to figure out. Those things need to be in line. And I would love to see LSU make that commitment to running the football, even if it's not super effective. You got to be able to attempt to do it, to make that defense respect it, to be able to open up the passing game. Tigers had a big day through the air last year against South Carolina in Columbia. See if they can match it on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. Okay, y'all, it's after further review. We'll knock out our final break of hour number 2. We used to do Tigers and the Pros when we come back. And then in about 15 minutes from right now to start hour 3, Kenny Lacey and attorney Matt Orey will be in studio with us. Very much looking forward to that conversation. Stay with us. It's AFR.
After further review.
I love telling you about Clegg's Nursery. I love telling you about great local businesses that have just been incredible community partners for so long. And at Clegg's, they are stocked on pumpkins and gourds and corn stalks and hay bales and all the fall decor. All their fall decor setups are there. Their displays are everywhere. Everything you need to create that fantastic fall display, they have at Clegg. So I always encourage you, bypass the big box store. Bypass the big orange and blue box stores and shop local. They're also stocked up on Mobucks and rice bran and deer corn. So if you're out there, getting set for deer season or in deer season now, Clegg's Nursery has got you covered. They got fall flowers that have arrived, mums and petunias and marigolds and snapdragons. They've even got pansies that are perfect for the fall color and the winter color. They got them right now at any of the 4 Clegg's Nursery locations. They're just the best. Go see the wonderful people at any of the convenient Clegg's Nursery locations. Buy local, shop local at Clegg's Nursery.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
All right, wrapping up hour number 2, and glad to have you aboard with us here. In about 12 minutes from right now, Kenny Lacey, attorney Matt Orey will be in studio with us as we've been promoting and teasing all day that we'll have that conversation. Very much looking forward to that conversation on a day where Louisiana State Police released some new video footage of what we see of Kyron, what we know was speeding and illegally passing in a no-pass zone. Still, in my opinion, very much, not really an opinion, it very much calls into question the testimony of several eyewitnesses that said the person driving the gold truck had to aggressively brake, which video, black box, and firsthand testimony confirmed did not happen. So nobody's disputing that Kyron was speeding and illegally passing. But that does not mean he was responsible for the fatal crash. But anyway, it's been, I'm sure, an emotional 6 months and an emotional 4 days for the Lacey family. We'll talk to Kenny Lacey here shortly. Right now, Muso, Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
So Odell Beckham Jr. was on the Pivot in an episode that published earlier on Tuesday, and he told Ryan Clark and the guys that he has accepted a 6-game suspension for violating the NFL's policy on performance-enhancing drugs. The failed test happened last season when Beckham was a member of the Miami Dolphins. He said on the podcast he insisted he did not knowingly take the banned substances, and when he asked the league what PED he tested for, he was told, quote, your testosterone levels are too high. So a suspension will appear on the NFL transaction wire Tuesday, and it will start the clock for the 6 weeks until Beckham's eligible to play. He also did tell Ryan Clark and the guys on the Pivot that he is still hoping to return to the NFL this season. Said he'd be open to join the Steelers, Chiefs, Rams, or the Giants. We'll keep you up to date, but obviously it's going to be a little bit of time before OBJ can get back at least 6 games.
Well, one more game, right? If it's been 5 already. So
I guess the report did not specify when the clock would start. It appeared on the transaction wire today, so I'm assuming the 6 games starts this week.
That'll make a lick of sense. It would be 6 games. This would be the final week.
Maybe he had to accept it first and not fight it, not appeal. I don't know. Monday Night Football. Brian Thomas Jr., his best game so far this season. Jaguars have really been struggling getting him the football, which is puzzling, but 4 receptions, 80 yards a night ago. The 80 yards is the highest receiving total for BTJ so far in 2025. Had a long of 33. Still no touchdowns on the year, though, through 5 weeks. But Jaguars did get a very big win. Now, I was bummed for Mason Smith, too. Patrick Mahomes slipped right out of his hands last night. He had him just about wrapped up in the backfield, and Mahomes, working his magic, was able to actually escape the grasp of a former Tiger, Mason Smith, in that game. That's Tigers in the pros.
Presented by First South Farm Credit, FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Of course, for more than 100 years now, our friends at First South Farm Credit have done one thing, and they've done it better than anyone else. They help Louisianians buy land. Maybe you want to work in the city but live that rural lifestyle. We see this so much. Maybe people who work in New Orleans, but they've moved to the North Shore. Well, First South Farm Credit has a branch in Tangipahoa. So if you want to buy that land, live on the North Shore, commute across the causeway, work in the city, you get the best of both worlds. Maybe if you're in the greater Baton Rouge area, of course, you want to maybe live in St. Francisville, Clinton, some of those surrounding areas, go buy 20 acres, 100 acres, build your family's dream home. You can have that rural lifestyle while working in the city as well. It's First South Farm Credit. Maybe, as we approach the end of the year, hard to believe we're approaching the end of the year. You're thinking of maybe a tax write-off. Recreational timber property could be a good investment property. Ask your CPA and see if that's something that might make sense. It's First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthLand.com. firstsouthland.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. firstsouthland.com. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review, and we're glad to have you hanging out with us. Remember, you can always email us, tweet us, or text us in the 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. I did get a text from Bryant who said, any update on Solomon Thomas? Was hoping he'd be back after the bye week and maybe contribute. It's very hard to imagine Solomon Thomas. And remember, Solomon Thomas was the five-star offensive lineman who flipped from Florida State to LSU on signing day. And we learned at the start of fall camp that he had a fractured bone in his foot that was going to cost him, really a month. And so the next availability we have with Brian Kelly, he'll be on the SEC Coaches Teleconference on Wednesday morning, and then he'll meet with reporters on Thursday. We could certainly ask for an update on Solomon Thomas then. But it's very hard to imagine for someone who's a freshman that missed all of fall camp and then effectively has to have the ramp-up acclimation period to get back into football shape, would be able to help you this late in the season when you're deep into conference races. I just don't know what's realistic. It feels like your rotation, your seven-man rotation with your starters, and then you talk about Kern, Eccles. I guess you can throw 8 if you go to DJ Chester as well. The 8 guys that you have, you feel like you can count on are pretty much set at this point. So, but we can ask for an update. All right, hour number 3 coming up after SportsCenter.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU athletics. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar. And yes, I love to tell you about the partnership that Our Lady of the Lake and LSU have, because they're interwoven into the fabric of one another. We told you how excited we are about the future basketball arena, which the Lake has already agreed to purchase the naming rights of that arena whenever it's approved by the board. You can't wait for that. Not only the arena itself, but that entire entertainment and medical district that'll be around the new arena, which is going to be so great, not only for this community, but for really all of the southern part of our state and all of the state. But I love telling you about my own personal experiences as well, from Drew being a patient at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, my own personal care. Dr. Curtis Chastain is part of the Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health Group, and any other type of care you may need. You don't have to go far, because the Lake provides world-class care right here at home. It's Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar.